Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina Kay, and today we're going to be talking about China's 996 work culture. But first, I'm going to start off with a little story. I work part-time at Home Goods, which can be a really fun place to shop at, but not nearly as much fun to work at. Over the past month of December, I found myself working nearly 40 hours one week and over 30 other weeks. I couldn't believe the amount of hours I was working as a part-time employee. I never thought that they would need me there that often. Now, for a full-time employee, 40 hours is the standard that would be expected to work. And then even the additional hour here and there in order to finish a project is seen as very normal. But for those working in China, 40 hours a week would feel like a dream vacation. Reported by Wei Yi Yip of BBC News on September 2nd, 2021, the Chinese labor law mandates that a workday is 8 hours long, a work week is 44 hours, and an additional 36 hours of overtime throughout an entire year. But under 996, employees are working an additional 30 hours on top of the mandated 44 hours per week. Today, we're going to talk about China's 996 work culture. We'll be discussing what it is, public reaction, and some implications. Starting off, let's talk about what it is. 996 can be divided into 9 hours, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 6 days a week. Now, this may seem like an outrageous number to you and I, but these numbers are actually quite standard, especially in the larger tech companies such as Alibaba and Huawei. Reported by Tim Lindemann, a manager who focuses on communication technology, on June 9th, 2019, China began implementing longer work hours during its economic reform in the late 1970s as a way to pull themselves out of poverty. Now, this would make great sense for small budding businesses to put in all their blood, sweat, and tears at any time possible in order to build up. But as these companies built up and became powerful and strong, the starting company hours remained. Now that we've talked about what it is, let's discuss some public reaction. This can be separated into two categories: those happy with 996 and those unhappy with 996. Now, those most happy with 996 are the owners of large companies. Reported by Melissa Cyril, a managing director of news outlet China Briefing on April 19th, 2019, founder and owner of Alibaba, Jack Ma, poses the question: how do you achieve the success that you want without putting in the extra time and effort when faced with employee complaints of these long work hours? Now, on the flip side, those most unhappy with 996 are the lower employees that are working these hours without a choice. Many employees from various companies came together around 2019 in order to compile a list of the various companies implementing these 996 work hours. They named their list 996 ICU because if you work these hours, you're bound to end up in the ICU or intensive care unit. Now that we've talked about public reaction, let's discuss some implications. We'll talk about business practices and health. Now, because of this list compiled, 996 ICU, the knowledge of the 996 hours became far more widespread. And in 2021, the Supreme Court of China did deem 996 illegal, but this has not stopped companies from using such hours. Some ways that companies will get around being illegal in their hour practices is that they will contract out flex hours instead of fixed hours, because flex is paid and recorded differently than fixed hours or overtime hours. Another method they will use is they will have their human resources department change the books in order to make it look like the employees are only working the maximum hours allowed per week. Now, some health implications. Working such hours can be taxing on the soul, body, and mind. James Downs, managing director of communication software company Powwow, states in an April 25th, 2019 issue of Forbes that longer work hours do not equate to greater productivity and have proven to have a negative impact on employee mental and physical health. Within China, there have been many cases of employees needing to go to the hospital for mental, emotional, or physical strain. There have been other cases where employees have committed suicide because they could no longer take the stress of needing to work such hours in order to be on par with their peers. And there are further cases of employees dying because their bodies simply gave out. Today, we talked about China's 996 work culture. We discussed what it is, public reaction, and some implications. The Chinese labor law mandates that a workday is 8 hours long, a work week is 44 hours long, and overtime is an additional 36 hours throughout a whole year. But those working 996 are working an additional 30 hours on top of the mandated 44 per week. I know when I needed to work those extra hours at HomeGoods, I was extremely exhausted. I did not want to go to work any day I needed to. I found it very difficult to keep a smile on my face, and I could not get out of there faster. Even for a full-time employee, being called in to stay an extra couple hours or to come in early tends to not be a very fun day. But for these 996 employees, hours are non-negotiable, whether they had agreed to them or not when they started working. But they have a choice of either being financially stable in order to support themselves and their family, or their own physical health. Thank you for listening.